Presentation about the Ho Chi Minh thoughts on the freedom and its application in contemporary in Vietnam. And I present the includes three parts. And now I talk some about the image from Ho Chi Minh times. What the Vietnamese people who was called Annamese, name given to the Vietnamese by their colonized overlords, live in the miseries and oppression when the French colonized master the Rolex in Vietnam. And you can see the some and so that at that time the Vietnamese people have a low life standard. They don't have any freedom to. They don't have a right to live, right to talk, and right to make anything because French invaded in Vietnam, and so that Ho Chi Minh tried to find the way to get the independence for my country at that time. And now Ho Chi Minh Ho Chi Minh was born in Nghệ An province in 1819. He and he was he was a fourth son of the small Mandarins with the name the Nguyễn Sinh Cung, and his family was a typical Confucian traditional family in Vietnam. Ho's biographer points out that already when Nguyễn Sinh Cung, Ho Chi Minh's childhood name, was at the age of 13, three key words occupied his mind: the most freedom, equality, and humanity. Yeah. And Ho Chi Minh might be inspired early on his childhood to creative towards such a Western conceptions, as he spent several years in Harlem in the United States. It was then that he was able to observe the painter's dichotomies between the noble philosophical and political principles, such as the expressed in the Declaration of Independence in the subsequent Bill of Rights, and the concrete social and political reality in the U.S. Besides obvious social problems reflect in the dire state of living standards, inequality, and Ho Chi Minh was a typical being portrayed as a great leader and the father produced a country of Vietnam. In the 1990 article on Ho Chi Minh's perception in Vietnam, Richard Burke observes that unlike some other communist countries in the area in 1990s, the Vietnamese continue to look up their deceased leader, cherish his memory and being inspired by his thought, while many people around the world are re-evaluating and condemning their past communist leaders. Vietnam is Bernie Singh's uncle image and looking for new guidance in his thought. Among other reasons, this may be so because his power will not be on the fear like Stalin, and he was never treated with the irony like Leonid. I think here there is a real estimate for Ho Chi Minh. They are trying to find in his words something that corresponds to the current reformed policies. It's a word of the Richard Burns. And Ho Chi Minh talks on freedom. He said that I focus on the Ho Chi Minh thoughts of freedom. He said that when he go out to our country and to find a way to get the independence for my country, at that time he said that I just have one desire. The most desire is how to do for my country getting independent and how to do for my people getting freedom completely. And we knew the Franklin Roosevelt's professor in the truest sense, freedom cannot be the best owned. It must be achieved. Who call all the Vietnamese people united to find friends and depend at that time to get the independence and freedom for our countries. And he said, the anti-Vietnamese people are determined to mobilize all their physical and mental strength to satisfy their life and properties in order to safeguard their independence and freedom. And however, the Ho Chi Minh declared that if the countries gain independence but the people do not have a happiness and freedom, that independence does not mean anything. The path of liberation and development, therefore, the necessity involves the working out of the variable list of freedom rights of each citizen is entitled to enjoy regardless of race, ethnicity, social status, gender, and education. And with the role as the first president of Vietnam Democratic Republic, who was elected in the first election, Ho Chi Minh maintained the implementation of freedom for Vietnam in all the fields of the politics, economy, culture, and society. Vietnamese people have a right of freedom to follow or not follow any parties. People have a right to be free to set up associations, to free express their opinions, to free export, import, or to do business freely, and admit the existence of different types of overseas freedom of body, freedom of speech and press, assemblies. According to Ho Chi Minh's, freedom is no unrestrained liberties, but instead must be cultivated within the limits of a just legal system. When the person in the communities shares the common social contract, he or she must follow the same rules for the communities to stay strong and stable. A legitimate and just legal framework is a pledge to nurture free. Laws is intended not to have police or police, but to the preserve and promote freedom. It is a basis for a human to have the freedom to do what he likes without harming others. Where there is a law, there is freedom because only then that one the not subjected to the arbitrary will of other, but free to actualize his own decisions. Here we hear the article and entrance of John Locke, famous terms. Where there is no law, there is no freedom. It is worth mentioning here that Ho Chi Minh emphasized freedom of thought. He says, our regime is a democracy, therefore the thought must be free. Because freedom of thought will enable new innovation appear and arise. Freedom of the thought will help the people become the civilized and find the truth. Freedom of thought can create beauty, esteem, and the soul, and can touch the world of transcendence. And freedom of thought have the reason freeze become the popular. So Ho Chi Minh was very interested in the religion freedom. And however, like Don Adam says, liberty cannot be preserved without general knowledge among the people. Ho Chi Minh advocates rising people's intellectual standard of popularizing democratic rights of the people. It emphasizes that officials from the communes to the central, they must be really close to the people, disseminate and make people understand their right, includes the rights of freedom, which means understood well that the strongest of all the government is the most freedom, most free. And now I want to talk about the application, his thoughts on freedom in Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh passed away in 1969. After Ho Chi Minh times, Vietnam had changed a lot in many fields. The government has used Ho Chi Minh thoughts as a basic guideline. However, question remains, therefore, to what extent has the Vietnamese authorities been able to put their ideas into practice while Ho Chi Minh was still alive, and how things developed after his death? In the past, there were other political parties in Vietnam. However, the party could only exist a short time. You can find in the world. At that time, the Ho Chi Minh times, we have many parties. But there were two parties that have operated parallel with the Vietnamese Communist Party until 1988. Though there was a Vietnamese social Party and the Vietnam's Democratic Party. It's two parties. And but that until the 1988, they claimed that to dissolve themselves. And Vietnamese constitutions in 1992 just allowed the Communist Party as the only party in Vietnam. So that now we just have one party in my country. But it's in the politics and in the economies, you can see the charts. In the economies before the 1986, we applied the Soviet economic models of planet economies, which pull our economy down. But in the 1986, we changed from the planned economy to the market economy. And you can see that we have a short time to adjust my economy to adapt the new market economy. And then after that, our economy in my country grow. Yeah, you can see that in the chart. So that when we apply the Ho Chi Minh thoughts about the freedom in economies, our economies have a change. And about freedom of religion in Vietnam, according to the International Freedom Report in the 2007 of the U.S. Consulate General in Vietnam, Vietnam is still violating people's freedom of belief and of religion. The Vietnamese government denies this. So what is the truth behind the cause of this assessment? And the report claims that the current legislation regulates the government's significant control over religious activity and has the ambiguous regulations that restrict religious freedom for the sake of national security and social united the law on belief and the religion 2006 effective from the January 2018 still maintain their restriction. The new laws continue to still place a process for registering and recognizing the religious group of many states and blah blah that they talk too much that in Vietnam we have violent in freedom in religion. But there are some reasons why such negative phenomena still happened, though restrict religion in freedom. So I can show that some reason why they talk that. Firstly, Buddhism was introduced to Vietnam for a long time and deeply embedded in the subconscious of Vietnamese people. Christianity in turn with the French invasion. So therefore, the adaptation of people to the Christianity is somewhat a sign and a light. And secondly, religion management system of government is very big on the top, and with many boards, many commissions, many departments, many high officials. but very small, very weak on the lower level in the local area. So the person who manages the activity of the religion in local communities doesn't not understand religion. Moreover, they don't have a salary for that work. So normally they have low and narrow knowledge. They interfere with the religious freedom activity because of irresponsibilities, selfishness, and no action sanctions against them. So they work in the subjective way. Sometimes they can find and attack the people because they think they have a right to do it. The policemen don't want to interfere because they think that it belongs to the religion ring. Thirdly, while the religion in minorities is developing, now we have a common ethnic. They follow the Christian so much because they didn't have a religion in the past. They just had a superstitious belief in spiritual objects that did not bring them to get the happiness and the peace inside. It was a frightening instead. Then Christianity brought them to the thing they didn't have before, and they saw many good things in the principle of Christianity, so that they want to follow. Besides, they are not affected many good things. They are not infected by the traditional culture like in the city, in our city. That becomes a lineage from the Christianities. Moreover, the management of the government cannot reach the rural area efficiently, so they have a much more the freedom in religious activity. Mostly, some of the activity of Christian in Vietnam are the impact because the community activity of the Christian are very strong. They make it very strong. And meanwhile, the Vietnamese that we don't have the laws of protest. So the policemen are often scared that those are the illegal protests. Therefore, without the notion of right or wrong, they try to block those activities. Yeah. Okay. One slide. So I want to conclude that we can reasonably claim that the concept and the practice of the rights of freedom is the necessary and even constitutively intertwined with their disparate cultural and religious food. Tolerance is an important value and the multi-ethnic nature, such as in Vietnam. In the complex interplay of social, political, and economic interests, international, ethnic, cultural, and religious interests, tolerance seems to be the best most of thinking in bringing forth and peaceful societies, cohesive and more just societies. I suggest more academics and political attention should be paid to the complex and diverse phenomenon of religion in Vietnamese societies. I wish the truth will be always written out for it about my country. Thank you very much.